television show invites you to speak live with Piscataway's Mayor Brian Waller and his guests on the first Monday of each month. To speak with the mayor, call 562-2305. Mayor Waller is ready to take your calls.
Good evening. Welcome to Eye on Piscataway. This is Monday, April 1st, 2002, and we are on the air live. If you would like to speak with me or my guests, please call us at any time during this hour-long program at 732-562-2305. My guests this evening include Piscataway resident Ann Adamak, a member of the Piscataway Domestic Violence Crisis Intervention Team. Since its inception in 1995, and Patrolman Frank Hackler and Sergeant Alan Criney, both outstanding members of our Township Police Department. In 1995, the State Attorney General mandated that all municipalities either form domestic violence teams or have specially trained domestic violence police officers. Our police department launched a recruitment campaign for members, and Anna Adamak was one of our first members to sign on to the team. Since then, she has served as a group facilitator for a women-aware domestic violence support group. She also has chaired the Violence Against Women Working Group at the University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey for the last 4 years and since 2001. Has also been a legal advocate with Women Aware, providing legal advocacy in Middlesex County Superior Court, and has been employed for 25 years by UMDMJ, both on the Piscataway and New Brunswick campuses. Welcome, Ann. Sergeant Alan Criney has been a police officer for 24 years, 17 of those years in Piscataway. Prior to joining the Township Force, Sergeant Criney was with the Middlesex County Park Police. Like all of our Piscataway police officers, Sergeant Criney has worked in many areas of police work, including working in the patrol section and in investigations. At the present time, he serves as a training supervisor and as an emergency service unit coordinator. He is involved in programs that ordinary citizens, adults, and children can participate in, and we'll talk about those programs this evening as well. Welcome, Sergeant Criney. Patrolman Frank Hackler is currently completing his 15th year of service for Piscataway Police Department. He has served tours of duty in the patrol, general investigation section, juvenile, community policing, training, and records. Patrolman Hackler is currently assigned to the service section and is the DARE instructor for the Township Parochial Schools and is the department liaison to the Domestic Violence Crisis Intervention Team. Frank also guest hosts a weekly program on a non-commercial public supported radio station located in Huntington County. Welcome, Patrolman Hackler. Now that the intros are out of the way, I think probably the best way how we can approach tonight's topic is, what is the domestic, I guess this is both for Ann and Frank for you to start off, and Sergeant Criney, feel free at any time to jump in. What is the domestic crisis team all about? How, I know I said in the intro, it was mandated by the state AG's office in 1995, but how did that evolve? Why did it evolve? How did it come about? Who started it in this town? How has it transpired over the years since 1995? And what is it doing currently in 2002? I know those are a lot of questions, but I figure at one point you'll get around to answering one of the two of those questions.
The reason why the teams were formed is because the police officers were spending so much time with victims in the police station, 2 to 3 hours with all the paperwork, and they were not out on the streets patrolling. They also needed advocates for victims of domestic violence who could give comfort, aid, referral, resources, and be a good listener, non-judgmental listener. The teams were formed. The first team in Middlesex County was actually formed in South River with Police Chief Ive. After that, Women Aware took control of the domestic violence group and encouraged the police chiefs in the various municipalities. At the time, it was Chief LaRocca, and our initial liaison was Lieutenant Rich Gregory. That was in 1995. We started with 25 members. There is a 40-hour state-mandated curriculum that each team member must complete, plus 10 hours of victim one-on-one counseling. When that's completed, the team member is certified by Women Aware and the New Jersey Coalition for Battered Women. And at that point, you can then counsel victims at the police station. Typically what happens is a victim is either brought into the station or walks in. The watch commander calls whomever is on call. Team members sign on a calendar monthly for shifts. The team member is called and brought down to the police station, where we sit with the victim and the family. We give aid, comfort, referrals, resources. We listen to what they're telling us. We're there a minimum of an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. I've been there as long as 5 hours. Also, if a person is intending to get a restraining order, we review the restraining order with the person to make sure that it's complete. And
that they're comfortable with, I guess, I'm not a lawyer though, but I know that certain restraining orders have certain criteria involved, and if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong.
There's certain items on a restraining order that a victim can request, types of relief, both on a criminal standpoint and a civil standpoint, that being protection from continuous acts of domestic violence against a batterer. Also, relief can be extended to monetary items, having use of the car for that period when the order is temporary until a final order is decided by a Superior Court judge.
Okay, just hold that thought. And I want to remind our viewers the number is 732-562-2305. If you would like to speak with me or any one of my guests this evening, I have Sergeant Alan Criney from the Piscataway Police Department and Sergeant, or strike that, well, we didn't promote you there yet. Frank Hackler, patrolman, who's the liaison with the Domestic Crisis Intervention Team, and Anna Monchak, the volunteer with the Domestic Crisis Intervention Team. Okay, take it away, Ann. There was another thought that you wanted to...
Yes, we also tend to help the victim, and we call them victims when they come in, both male and female. We counsel a lot of male victims also. We also help them prepare for the final restraining order, which is generally in about 10 days, and that's a trial. People don't understand that that's a trial in front of the judge, and they must be prepared. We use a form that's been prepared by the New Jersey Law Association, and we have a video how to present your case for a final restraining order.
You went over briefly, I guess, the scenarios. Let's just say a woman, the police are called to a house, or somebody arrives at the police department in a situation. The watch commanders know automatically to call one of the volunteers from Ann's group.
Right. Our acting policy is the responders from the team. They come to police headquarters. At no time do they go to the scene of a criminal act that's taken place. It's done in the confines.
Privacy, obviously.
Right, for privacy and certainly for the protection of all the parties that are involved as well. When there's an arrest made, the victim's brought to headquarters, and a counselor is called in to begin with their duties.
Now, I know you can only speak to Piscataway, but do most towns have is it set up similarly like this?
Middlesex County has the greatest number of teams. We currently have about 18 crisis teams.
Why is it that Middlesex is compared to other counties in the state?
That's correct.
Why is it? Is it because they've been more progressive and trying to solve I don't know.
I think there's a number of reasons to really answer that question. One, Middlesex County has been very progressive, and it's a reflection on the chiefs and the police directors in the county. They wanted to go and be in the forefront to provide victims with the very best, in terms of assistance and relief in these times of crisis. The other reason is that we have a very diverse population in Piscataway Township. we see a lot of differences in cultural.
I was just going to get to that question because
as far as relationships in domestic violence, unfortunately, in a lot of cultures, it's an accepted practice, and the administrations of each police department have recognized that fact to try to combat, because it's still an ever-growing problem.
Going on that thought, has it been a learning process also to members of your volunteer group?
Oh, absolutely.
With respect to different cultures involved, and obviously Piscataway Township and Middlesex County as a whole is a mosaic of different cultures, but I guess what somebody might do from their homeland of a different country and what goes on here are obviously two different things, but I guess that must be an eye-opener for some of the volunteers.
There's a lot of trainings that we take advantage of. We encourage all our members for continuing education, one of which is cultural diversity. There are many groups in Middlesex County, the Puerto Rican Congress, the Jewish Renaissance Foundation, Monavie. They each pertain to a different culture, whether it be the Jewish population, Latino, Hispanic, South Asian. In this manner, by going to these trainings, we become sensitive to the cultural diversity of your clients that come in to see you.
You talked about training, that each volunteer has to do X amount of hours. After they receive their certificate, but I'm sure they have constant ongoing training to meet new dynamics involved in your field.
Yes, there are a number of trainings offered throughout the year, whether it be with the law.
Is that run in conjunction with the police department or some outside group? Or
Separate? Entirely separate. There are many agencies and organizations that specifically hold workshops for domestic violence specialists. And this is a designation that most team members strive to attain. It requires a number of conferences. You must be very well schooled in the various aspects of domestic violence, plus all the cultural diversities. You have to know what you're doing. The law. You need to know immigration. When an immigrant woman is in danger of being sent back to her country.
Now, see, that's an interesting. Who would have thought that immigration issues would become involved when you're in a domestic violence crisis management team, that you're worried about immigration issues?
Well, particularly here, where we have a lot of foreign professionals at Rutgers University and UMD&J. These people are here on an F1 or an H1 visa, and they bring their spouse. They have a child here. That child is an American citizen. If a domestic incident occurs, it's very common. The first threat is you're going back home and the child stays here. If the husband is sponsoring his wife, and most of the instances are male cases, we do see about 5% male victims, but for the most part, the victims are women. And in this instance, the husband is going to sponsor his wife for citizenship, and they have a domestic dispute. The threat is there, you're going back, I'm not going to sponsor you, and the child remains here.
With the other spouse?
With the spouse that's here on the visa. So we know that there is a window of opportunity to send her to immigration authorities that can help her. They're experts in the field to help her self-petition for her own status.
Periodically, you read some articles in a newspaper where there's a domestic dispute, either the husband or the wife would take off the child back to their homeland. Have you ever run into instances like that?
Yes, we have.
Because, you hear some of the stories that where a parent, their child just disappears off the face of the earth because of a domestic dispute. One leaves the country, and so that's periodically that, unfortunately, that obviously happens.
Yes, it does. And it's often that an American woman has married a foreign national, and he's taken the child or children back to visit in his country, and they're property of the father, and they don't come back.
Well, that's interesting. Let's hold that thought, but I want to get Sergeant Criney involved in the discussion. Now, Sergeant, I know you have been working with the Youth Week and the Adult Citizen Police Academy. We do have a a small video from, I think, the Youth Week or the Adult Committee, so maybe you might want to say, while that's playing, you can say a few things about that.
Okay, this is one of the youth weeks that we've run. I believe this is about two years ago.
It appears so.
Right. What we're trying to do here is show a little teamwork, a little discipline. The officers are inspecting them, the juveniles.
You try to instill a lot of self-esteem and pride and work as a team effort with the youth.
Physical fitness is a very active part in the youth week.
Good job, good job. Yeah, they're lucky they cut me short today. I was in the wrong.
As well as the classroom.
You may want to identify that
That's Officer Scott Orrit. There's Sergeant Mike Blair. He's showing them handcuffing techniques. We try to do a lot of hands-on type of activity with the youth during the week, and they seem to enjoy it.
Youth always have a misconception from police on what they see on television, and certainly what we try to do is show them exactly what the role of a police officer is and how much training is involved, continuous training.
That's for use with the baton,
right.
Obviously.
What we like to also emphasize, this isn't a scared straight program. This is for youth who would have an interest in law enforcement.
Here is a little segment that we called Fatal Vision, where we show the youth what happens when they're under the influence of either an intoxicating beverage or a hallucinogenic, and how it can affect their motor skills. Just as you can see here in the film, just simple walking is hampered with these goggles. And what they do is they fool the brain into thinking that they're under the influence.
This is our ID officer, Steve Prohaska, showing different avenues of fingerprinting. And this is Officer Doug Zuber showing them our mobile vision cameras we now have installed in the patrol cars.
Then I'm sure with the MDTs that are
right,
there.
Showing all the latest technology we have in the cars. And you could see the interest on how it works. Now, on this scene here, the students are taught how to do a high-risk motor vehicle stop. And that's Officer Jose Medina showing them.
Again, there's a lot of hands-on.
Mind you, probably most of them can't see above the steering wheel.
This is 2001 graduation. We got a bagpiper courtesy of the Franklin Township Police Department. This is our graduation ceremony.
Elisa Altamonte.
And you see a lot of pride in the youth on graduation day because they've attained many skills throughout the week.
Kiana Bender.
And we get good feedback. The students really enjoyed it.
Now, this is also, for the residents, this is another way that the police department's a community outreach program with the youth to get them more involved. I'd love to sound the bagpipes. Matter of fact, we had him go through town hall after he was finished with that, if I remember.
I understand.
But with that being said, I think that's another, and first of all, I'd like to give the police department credit for starting that program, and I think it's a wonderful idea. Now, you might want to mention that they are recruiting for, I don't know if the slots are filled already.
We're planning, usually we try to plan it for the second week in July. The curriculum's still being worked out, and we should be able to advertise about the middle of May for the Youth Week, and that would be if you're going to be in 8th grade in September of 2002. Average age is about 13, 14 years old in that range group we're looking for. Okay. And we usually try to cap it at about 25 students.
Is that because they give a better hands-on experience?
Yeah, it's easier to manage. It's a lot easier to manage.
So like just a regular class size amount of kids in a class.
We want to give each of the youth an opportunity to partake in all the avenues of what they are going to learn for that week.
One of the thoughts about the youth week, I noticed in the morning sometimes. I was there last summer when they started, was it 8 o'clock in the morning? So obviously, if you're not an early riser, don't even bother.
Right.
Some of them look like they were half asleep. But I think, but afterwards, if you talk to some of the children, that they were just delighted that they actually went through the program, and they were very
We got
happy.
positive feedback from the parents and the children. They really enjoyed it, so much so that this year we're looking to expand it into the high school. We've done some surveys, and we got very positive feedback, so we're presently working on a curriculum. It's going to be more academic, more search seizure issues such as that, but we hope to have something in the very near future advertised for high school students also.
Okay. Now, I don't know. I think, do we have a video of the adult? The adult, maybe we can go to that and we can do the same thing. Sergeant Kern, you can take it away from there.
This is the third year, right, Frank, for our Citizens Police Academy. This year we have 14 citizens from Township of Piscataway. That's Detective Calvin Williams speaking to the class. I believe this class was on our investigations division to include our internal affairs unit, and we were giving, what we try to do is give the citizens a broad overlook of the whole department and how it operates so they have a better understanding. And the curriculum set up so every week we progressively get more and more into the police work. So when it comes down to the final, on the 11th, 10th, 11th week, we take them over to the firearms training simulator, and we put them through different kinds of situations to see how they're going to react. But we do it step by step, so when they get there, they've had all the training, an overview of it, so they can try to make an informed decision on the different situations we put them into. That's Captain Richard Ivone going over the internal affairs policy of the department and how it operates.
That's another way that the residents can be closer to the police department and the township government. It's not as just simple when you're being pulled over on the road or the lights go on. There's a lot more involved in police work than just turning overhead lights and sirens on.
And the majority of the contact with the public is usually negative. They're either the victim of a crime, or they've witnessed a serious incident, or they've been stopped for a motor vehicle violation.
Now, what are the requirements for somebody? I know this year's class is filled and the course is ongoing and should be finishing up, I believe, sometime in May? Or
May, correct.
Sometime in May. Now, what are the requirements for somebody who might next year?
Well, we usually advertise about the end of February, and we try to limit the class to around 15. Again, it's easier to manage a class of that size. And you have to be a resident of Piscataway, 21 or older, and you have to sign off on a waiver so we can check your background, because sometimes you're put in situations where you can see sensitive material, and that's just, we have to do that for the law.
Yeah, obviously you're not going to let a criminal let a fox in the hen house, so to speak, in the police department.
As the sergeant explained, they're going to be in areas of the police department. They're going to see some, somewhat sensitive material, and certainly that's why we preclude somebody that may have a criminal record.
The feedback that you've received from prior classes, and I know Councilman Newbin actually last year went through the training course. What are like the two best weeks that the highlights?
They liked going to the FATS machine over at the County Prosecutors Training Center, because we put them through all different types of scenarios: shoot, don't shoot.
FATS trains the firearms training simulator.
And then they also liked the last week prior to graduation, we do practicals where we let them pull cars over. Our own detectives come out and they'll pull them over, and we'll put them in various situations where they have to make decisions. And hopefully the curriculum up to there has taught them to do the proper procedures.
And do they get a grading score? Somebody from the police department grading them on a... Or is it just more...
completing the course.
Now, if it was you in your normal everyday work, you'd be receiving a grade from a superior, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the biggest response from the public was that, especially last year's class, they were just absolutely surprised how much the police department does in the community. Yeah. And again, they see a patrol car go by on the street, that's the extent that they see.
Okay. Now, I want to remind our viewers, number is 732-562-2305. The guest this evening is Sergeant Alan Craney of the Piscataway Police Department, and Patrolman Frank Hackler from the Police Department, and Ann Adamak from the Domestic Crisis Intervention Team. And I do believe we have a caller on line 1. Welcome to Piscataway.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for taking my call. Larry Halper here.
Well, Mr. Halper, I got to tell you, folks, that's my good friend Larry Halper. I don't believe in getting a person who's a hate monger and spews hatred out as a platform for that. I normally don't do something like that, but when somebody who actually does things what he does, I just rather not get into it, and I'm not going to give him that form. Ann, did you have something else you wanted to add?
In respect to what Patrolman Hackler was saying about the citizens in the police academy becoming more appreciative of the police, I believe that the team members also have. You become close to the policemen, and you have a greater respect for what they do and how they treat people that come into the police station. We've noticed that they treat people with kindness and with empathy and are very helpful. So I think team members almost become a chorus of praise for the police.
You've said a few minutes ago what a volunteer has to, the requirements to be on the intervention team. What does the requirements, same requirements for a police officer? Or, I mean, I know you're
not
a
as,
professional.
Not as stringent, Mayor.
Okay.
Certainly, we want someone on the team that has good communication skills, is a good listener, an exceptionally good listener. We want to ensure that they don't have any type of criminal background. And we have a very diverse group of both females and males. And we're always looking to expand that team because they certainly are in a lot of situations where you can get burnt out very easily if you're not careful. You're always seeing the bad side of people. And we look for members on the team that are strong-willed, that are going to be able to respond positively, because they are confronted with the worst in people's problems.
After a person has been involved with your crisis team, is it passed off to a professional individual in that field?
Yes.
I mean, because I know your crisis, you're the front line of defense, yes, so to speak, I guess.
We see them at time of crisis. After that, we refer them to Women Aware. Women Aware is the Middlesex County program for battered and abused women. And I believe under the direction of Jackie Marish, who's the director of Women Aware, that's one of the reasons why Middlesex County has the largest number of teams. She's very supportive, and she's very assertive with police chiefs in trying to get teams together.
Going back to Middlesex County, when you're saying it's not a reflection of the population as a whole, it's a reflection of how progressive, as I said before, that groups such as that you're involved in are trying to solve a problem, whereas probably, despite what the Attorney General's instituted back in 1995, but, probably 10 years ago, this was non-existent.
Well, we've seen
to a certain extent.
We've seen a whole evolution in how we treat this panacea of domestic violence. In 1987, when I came on, you responded to a domestic violence incident. More times than not, you did not make an arrest. You did not have mandatory arrest procedures. You basically separated the parties and told them, listen, if we come back, someone's probably going to go to jail. And certainly it's been a whole 360-degree turn in the thinking on how to treat the problem.
Is that, Patrolman Hackler, is that in New Jersey law or is that federal law? Or?
It's New Jersey law.
New Jersey law.
It's probably one of the strictest domestic violence laws in the nation. There is quite a bit of training that our police officers have to go through on a yearly basis. There's continuous training on domestic violence. The laws are strict. There's mandatory arrests in certain situations where police are mandated to make an arrest, to separate that offender, separate that batterer from the victim, and provide the victim with the relief they need.
I'd like to remind our viewers the number is 732-562-2305. If you would like to speak with me or my guests, this evening I have Sergeant Alan Criney of the Piscataway Police Department, Patrolman Frank Hackler, and also Ann Adamak from our Domestic Violence Intervention Team. Boy, it's a lot of words involved there. There's no acronym.
DVCIT.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Is there any thoughts? We just talked briefly about how has it evolved in the last few years. What do other states do? I know you're only involved in Middlesex County. What have you heard professionally from outside of the Middlesex County area, how other states react to something like this?
They also have very strict and stringent laws. Our team, our domestic violence team, is also affiliated with the silhouettes, silhouettes for victims. We have silhouettes of actual victims who were killed during a domestic violence incident. While we do these silhouettes in the month of October, we come in contact with other states. As a matter of fact, there was a march in Washington, and there were representatives throughout the nation. So this is something that's happening in all the states.
Now, silhouettes, when you mean by silhouettes, it's just like a national organization?
Yes. Do you want to talk about that, Jerry, our silhouettes that we have?
Well, we have, I guess we have 4 silhouettes and like Ann was explaining, they're from actual victims. They replicate the victim's height and body size.
Oh, that are in...
They've been posted in town hall.
Did the people physically hurt, or is it just...
They are victims through homicides.
Oh, really?
Domestic homicides.
No kidding.
They're called a silent witness, and one of our silhouettes is from a woman that was murdered here in Piscataway.
That's interesting. So it's a parent organization that just gathers all the statistics when an incident like this happens, and they use that as a visual aid tool as a reminder of the problem that's out there and that it needs to be addressed.
One of the other aspects of the team is to educate victims, because we found that once a victim of domestic violence, they're usually continuously a victim of domestic violence, and they go to educate victims on how to break that cycle of violence between themselves and a spouse, and what relief is out there, what they can do to try to separate successfully from the batter to get that relief that they so badly need.
Well, before we go to the break, Ann, did you want to make a pitch for volunteers? Or?
Absolutely. We are down to 18 members from 25, and in order to provide the service that we intend to do, which is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we could use some new members. It's difficult to provide that 24/7 on a continuous basis. We do it, but as Jerry said, sometimes we have a little bit of burnout. So we're delighted to have members. They can call the number that you've given them for information and speak to Patrolman Hackler.
Okay, now I want to remind the viewers, number 732-562-2305. My guest this evening is Sergeant Alan Criney of the Piscataway Police Department, also Patrolman Frank Hackler, and Ann Adamak, boy, tongue twister there, from our Domestic Violence Intervention Team. With that, I don't know if we're going to go to a break yet. I don't see the staff waving at me. Yes, they are. Take it away. They're waving at us, so okay. So just bear with us. We'll be right back.
To a child, a little of your time can make a lifetime of difference. That's why the Greenville Family Partnership sponsored a hike, because kids with something to do are less likely to do drugs.
Standing right in front of them.
Whether you're a good storyteller or a good listener, you can help. To find out about community drug prevention programs, call toll-free 1-877-KIDS-313.
I can keep a kid off drugs.
I'm principal of a new kind of public school. It's open up to 15 hours a day, year-round. It has loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. We have medical and dental services right here. Our teachers have more time to teach. Our students are better prepared to learn. There's just one problem. we can't get the kids to go home.
Find out how your school can be more like this one. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
Sometimes it's important for kids to keep quiet. But if you keep quiet about a kid who talks about hurting someone with a gun, some kid could be quiet forever. Don't wait till it's too late. Tell a grown-up right away. For a free book about what to do, write to McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60652.
Yo, you're looking at the bomb diggity numero uno smoke detector. That's me, Seymour Smoke. And when that smoke comes rising up, I start buzzing or beeping or whistling, so get out of that house pronto, fast, and stay out. If you don't have a working smoke detector in your house or apartment, you could end up being smoked. So you gotta make sure you check me out at least once a month. How? Just push my button here. That sound tells you I'm working. Oh, yeah, baby. But if every now and then you hear me chirp like this, that means my battery needs changing. And speaking of changing, make sure someone in your home changes my battery twice a year. And make sure I'm working by testing me like this at least once a month. So be cool about fire safety. Tell your moms and pops to have at least one smoke detector where you live. Maybe two.
Gotta be cool. Be cool about fire safety.
Honey, would you get me some ice cream?
Ice cream?
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Some things you just can't do without. It happens every night, all across America.
Welcome back to I Am Piscataway. The number's 562-2305 with a 732 area code. My guest this evening, and we have another guest that jumped on the show, but we're going to get to that, is Sergeant Alan Criney from the Piscataway Police Department, Patrolman Frank Hackler from the Police Department, and Adamak from the Domestic Crisis Intervention Team. But before we do introduce our next guest, I would like to read the monthly announcements. If you need to obtain your 2002 coupons for Recycling Trash Center, DPW will be open on Saturday, April 6th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. The regular hours are Monday, Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. For more information on DPW is available in the Piscataway News Township newsletter. The annual benefit auction and dinner to benefit the Piscataway's own museum, the Mettler Bodine House Museum, will be held on Saturday, April 13th at the Clarion Hotel and Towers on Route 27 in Edison. Ticket price is $40. For more information or reservations, call 732-463-8363. A spring bazaar to benefit the Senior Appreciation Fund will be held on Saturday, April 20th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Senior Center. Donations of handmade crafts, baked goods, white elephant items, etc. will be accepted after April 1st. For more information, call 732-562-1133. The Mettler Bodine House Museum, located at 1281 River Road, will sponsor a brown bag supper and lecture on April 10th. The Acoustic Cafe on April 19th will feature Castle Keep. And if you want to attend a Mother's Day's Tea on May 12th at the museum, you will need to make a reservation soon. To reserve or receive information on all of their events at the museum, call 732-463-8363. New Jersey law mandates the use of bicycle helmets for children under the age of 14. Through the generosity of the township and local businesses, bicycle helmets are available at no cost to Piscataway residents for whom the purchase of a helmet would be a financial burden. For more information, call Dorothy O'Keel at 732-752-4457, extension 121. A two-day cultural mosaic celebration of the cultural diversity of Piscataway will be held in the JFK Library on 500 Hose Lane on Saturday, April 20th, from 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and on Sunday the 21st from 1:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. For more information, call the library at 732-463-1333. Also at Kennedy Library, Foreign Film Festival, sponsored by the Friends of the Library, will present Farinelli, a French and Italian, on Thursday, April 18th, beginning at 7 p.m. On Friday, April 26th at 7:30 p.m. in the Municipal Building, you can swing to the Latin sounds of Cedeno's Latin and Salsa Band in a coffee house setting. The program is sponsored by the Cultural Arts Commission, and it is also free. The Municipal Gallery in the Municipal Building is featuring the oil and water color works of artist Caitlin Smith during the month of April. The gallery is open Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. New Jersey has a new toll-free poison center hotline for poison emergency treatment and advice. The number is 1-800-222-1222. A free rabies clinic for cat and dog licenses is scheduled for Saturday, May 4th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., rain or shine in Columbus Park. Also, a birthday bash for people if you are 90 years of age or older before May 2002 will be held at the Senior Center on May 1st. For more information, call the center at 732-562-1133. Mark your calendars. Saturday, May 11th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. is the annual street fair sponsored by the Public Relations Commission. It will be held on the grounds of the municipal complex. There is free admission and parking, and there will be crafts, food, pony rides for the children, and live entertainment throughout the day. The next live Eye on Piscataway will be on Monday, May 6th from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Channel 71. The program is replayed during the months on Mondays during the month at 8 p.m. and on Fridays and Sundays at 7 p.m. Okay, and that concludes our monthly announcements. I would like to announce for those folks back on March 17th, there was an article in the real estate section of the New York Times Sunday edition about Piscataway Township, and it's what the section where they do if you're thinking about living in a certain town. And it says an old town with high-tech ambitions. So if you didn't get a chance to read, to get a copy of it, you could probably go to the archives of the New York Times or the Piscataway Public Library. I'm sure they have a copy of it. I thought it was an excellent article on Piscataway Township. I'd also like to congratulate one of our Piscataway residents, Aisha Jones, from the University of Connecticut, UConn Huskies, even though my alma mater is Rutgers University. But Aisha led her teammates to the national championship last night, and our hats off to her. And I believe she's a senior this year, but hats off to her and congratulations. I did notice they mentioned Piscataway Township about 6 or 7 times on national television, so that's always good news. We ought to flip her a check for some good PR for Piscataway Township. Now, with that being said, we do have another guest on the show here, and this is Shirley Ellison, from the director of the Women Aware Shelter in Middlesex County. And Shirley, I know we only have about, say, 15 or 20 minutes left of the show, so you can have, wait a minute, strike that before we get to you, Shirley. The staff wants to go to one more videotape. Sorry about that, Shirley. This is, I believe, it's a videotape from yesterday, Saturday's Easter. Well, with that being said, I was in attendance for the residents who don't know what that's about. That's the annual Easter egg role, so to speak, at the PBA, the local PBA sponsors, and I've never seen so many kids down there this year.
I believe it was our largest crowd we've had. I mean, we've always had large crowds during the rain, but this was phenomenal with the good weather.
And the weather held out, and I think the funny part is I arrived down there around, I guess, 20 after, and the Easter Bunny was supposed to show up at 11:30, but he was 10 minutes early. And you could see the children being antsy, waiting to go out and grab the eggs. And I remember I was walking along the fence. I was bringing my one son around, and we never made it around to where all the kids are, so I had to pick them up and put them over the fence. And it was pretty funny, and I think that's a wonderful event that the PBA sponsors for the children of the town, and I think they all truly like it or not. So, but with that being said, back to Shirley Ellison. Shirley, you might want to explain a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what you do.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Shirley Ellison. I work with Women Aware. We provide services for victims of domestic violence. And our program is broken down into basically 3 components. We have a 24-hour hotline number, and that hotline number is 732-249-4504. And we also have outreach services. We provide an array of services through our outreach office that's preparing restraining orders, final restraining order, court prepping, community education, and also we do several meetings at locations, at several locations all over in terms of support groups. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry. And also, we have a shelter program. The shelter program is located in a confidential location. And our shelter program, the length of stay a person can, a victim, that's women and children, can stay in our shelter program. It varies because when the person comes into our program, they are individually contract with us. But the average length of stay in our program is about 45 days. And that's the breaking down of our program in terms of the 3 components. Through our hotline office, we provide all kinds of services, community education through our hotline office in terms of the locations, information and referrals, information that's deal with homelessness, referrals to medical services, transportation, you name it. We provide those services through our information hotline services. And through our program, we have a children's counselor also. Our children's counselor provide all kinds of services for the children. They provide individual counseling and group counseling through our shelter program. And from that, we have a program that we are in the process of developing, extending services for children, women and children that have left our shelter program. That's in the process. We also have, through our program, we have an art therapist for our children. The art therapist comes into the program. She's there once a week, and that's to help the children get through their crisis in terms of what they have been exposed to, all of the violence and stuff. And this has been very, very successful. The art therapist has been with us a number of years. And some other programs we have lots of volunteers coming from Rutgers College. Different alumni come in, and they provide lots of services for us too. We work with women during the counseling. We provide individual counseling. We also provide group counseling. We have support groups just for the victims that are within the program. And we provide services for male victims just as well. The only part that we don't provide is the shelter piece, but the part in terms of the individual counseling, information and referrals, court accompaniment, we provide those services too. What our experiences have been in working with male victims, they have been older victims that have been victimized by, their caretakers or their relatives versus, the loved ones. Now, as far as the female victims, we've had women in our program as young as 18, or if they are emancipated minors, and we've had victims as old as 80-some-odd years old that were abused by their relatives. So we are there, and our purposes of our services is to educate the public, to try to dispel the violence that's out in our community. We also work with other shelter programs. We have 21 counties in the state of New Jersey, and we do referrals back and forth. Each county does that. For whatever that victim support system is, we will do the referrals there. We have referred women out of the country. We referred women to other states. That's just our networking that we do with each other. And it's a very difficult job. It's a hard population to work with, but we are there to try to educate the public and try to do away with domestic violence.
If I may add a question on the break, Ann Adamak saying, and you just briefly touched on it, about children that are affected by, it's not just spousal, but I think a lot of people seem to forget that 9 times out of 10 there's probably children involved there, and
Yes.
you might want to mention.
Oftentimes when someone is brought to the police station, they're accompanied by their children. When that happens, we get a second counselor to come down to take care of the children while we do the counseling with the victim. But what we also try to do is encourage the parents in Piscataway to at least begin with a school counselor. Bring this situation to the attention of the teacher. The teacher is going to know, that child's going to react, and they're going to know something's wrong. So bring that to the attention so that the child can at least get into counseling through the school system. Oftentimes they can supplement that with outside private counseling, but at least begin with the school counselors in Piscataway. They've all had training and they know how to deal with the domestic violence. As a matter of fact, one of our team members is a counselor in our school system.
Okay, that's interesting. Did you want to add something else? Before we do that, I want to remind our viewers the number is 732-562-2305. If you'd like to speak with me or any one of my guests, today we have a director of the Women Aware Shelter in Middlesex County, Shirley Ellison, Sergeant Ellen Criney, and Patrolman Frank Hackler, and Ann Adamak from Domestic Crisis Intervention Team. Shirley, did you want to mention something?
Yes, as far as the children, we are going to have our annual fundraising, which is the funds are raised and it goes toward the children's program. And it's going to be this April the 8th at 6 p.m. to 8:30. It's going to be held at the Pines Manor in Edison. And all of the funds that are raised during that time goes to the little L's of our program, which are the second victims of domestic violence, which are our children. And we are asking everyone to come out and join us.
Now, this has to do with all the towns in Middlesex County. This is
Absolutely.
Countywide, not just what Ann does in Piscataway, but
Women Aware.
Women Aware.
Different organization, but you're running in tandem with each other.
This is a soup kitchen that we run every year. I believe this is the 10th year.
10th year.
Very successful. It's a 5-star event.
5-star event.
Yes,
really?
indeed.
So in other words, don't watch the calories.
What calories?
It's okay. I know we have about 5 to 6 minutes left. Ann, did you want to mention anything specifically that you didn't possibly cover?
Just want to reiterate that we are looking for citizens of Piscataway to join our team. We do need some new members. We are in the middle of a recruitment, and we'd be delighted to have citizens of Piscataway to join. Our team is very diverse, comes from all walks of life. We have healthcare providers, nurses, EMTs. We have teachers, both in the district and out. We have retirees. We have those in the corporate world, social workers. So whatever you do, we welcome you to join our team.
And I know I've been at 1 or 2 of the first classes that they've had. Actually, I'd like to thank your group and all the volunteers, but we have about 1,000 volunteers in town, and I must say that probably your group deals with a lot of unusual situations, so to speak, and my hats are off to you and your group with the time that you put in conjunction with the police department. We really appreciate everything that you and your group does. Patrolman Hackler, would you like to say anything?
Well, in response to our recruitment drive, the team will be out at the annual street fair on May 11th for both recruiting purposes and, most importantly, to educate victims of domestic violence. They are there with a great variety of information, a wealth of information to share with the victims out there. And it's difficult sometimes for a victim to both make an admission that there's a problem or seek help. And so the team members are there to try to ease that transition.
Okay.
Well, we'd just like to invite any youth who's going to be entering the 8th grade this September, if they're interested in law enforcement, to keep in mind our Youth Week, which we run about the second week of July. We should be advertising mid-May for that, so keep an eye out for that.
Okay. Now, Shirley, you have a minute and a half. You get the longest since you just came on the show. So if there's anything that you want to touch up on, feel free to, that wasn't mentioned, or so to speak.
I will encourage all citizens to please give the hotline number to any victims, which is 732-249-4504. And you can be their support system for any victim in terms of telling them, just listening to them. That's one of the best skills that one can possess in terms of dealing with a victim of domestic violence, because most victims have not had a chance to tell their story. And it's very much encouraging if you would just give them the hotline number, and we can, try to walk them through finding services for themselves.
You mentioned the children before. What happens when, a situation that they're out there? Where do they go to school?
Okay.
Yeah.
What happens when the children come into our program? That's one of the first things we try to do, get them back into the school system. Either they go back to their hometown, which if the mother or the caretaker feel that it's safe for them to continue to school there. If not, some of the neighboring city where our shelter program is located has very welcome our children into the school system.
Okay, now I know the staff's waving and we need to wind it up. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming on the program to talk about several important issues near and dear to a lot of people. I think that hasn't been brought forth as much as it should be, to let people know that there are people that care about people that are in situations such as domestic violence, and that there is resources out there that they can reach out to and help them out in times of crisis, whether it be the police department or the county division of it or the township volunteers. It's a really unusual circumstances, but thank you for each and every one of you. And with that, I'd like to wish everybody a happy April, and hopefully we're going to receive a lot of rain in the month of April, given the fact that we have a drought. Thank you. Thank you.